So I don't actually prepare presentations sitting down. It's just a weird thing I have, where when I decide I'm going to prepare something, I'll actually walk about and I'll be saying things out loud. Maybe I could put the introduction this way. And I'll stop and I'll say that, oh, it doesn't sound quite right. Maybe I could put it that way. Yeah, that's it. That would have them. Write down those 2 or 3 sentences. Then I move on to researching everything, getting the information together. Does this fit in line with my objective? So I then think, right, I'm going to use these 2 stepping stones. These are my 2 main points I'm going to use. Maybe an experience about Betty and statistics that back me up. I pick out those 2 points, I ignore the second one, I move on to the first one. So I've got my introduction set, then I do not put a pen to paper, do not be writing words out on a laptop, because as soon as we use the words, we're shackled to them. You want to be practicing out loud. How do I relate that story about Betty in a way that's going to grab their attention? Do you have a friend like that? Blah de blah, right question here, yeah, I'll use that question. But if we find that come the actual presentation, we haven't put it exactly the way we practiced, it doesn't matter. People are captured not by words, but by the manner it's presented in. We're conveying not words, but ideas. And so I will find that I'll practice that first section, not quite got it right, it might take quite a bit. And then I practice it, that kind of feels right, practice it again, I've said it slightly differently, I've used slightly different words, but again, it feels kind of right. Third time, yeah, it feels kind of right. I still haven't written anything down, I'm just getting used to expressing it. The same way when you tell a story, when Betty tells that story, and she meets the 5th person in the street, she has got that thing nailed, because she's told the story so many times. She hasn't written it down, she hasn't learned the wording, it's just that her brain, she is naturally expressing herself. That's all we're trying to do. At that point, you then write down a couple of notes. It might be the word Betty, it might be Yates's wine bar, whatever. But you're not writing full sentences, you're not writing words, you might draw a picture of someone on a table. It's just a trigger. I look down and the whole idea comes back and I express the idea. The only chance you've got of doing that is if you don't write the words down as you're going. But you can already see I'm now halfway through this presentation and I'm natural and I'll have the audience because I'm conveying ideas and I'm not shackled to notes, and I can look them in the eye and I can look for their response, and I will be natural enough for my volume and tone of voice to change. It is key using an outline. You do that with your second point, and then your conclusion, back to the way we prepared the introduction. Exact words and practice saying it to someone. And so the important thing with all of this, now that it's gone, is that it goes hand in hand with practicing aloud. We have to practice aloud. When people think they're preparing a presentation, it's amazing. You talk to people about how did you do that. Very, very few of them will have said it out loud. In fact, horribly, sometimes the first time they're saying it out loud is to an audience that they're trying to capture. What chance have they got? The only way you can say it naturally and in a way that will capture the interest of the audience is if you've practiced doing that tons of times. If you've practiced it in front of a camera and then watched it back, or you've practiced it in front of a friend or a business colleague, and they know, so volume, pausing, questions, they're looking at you, good. And they can say, that bit didn't feel very natural, maybe you're getting a little bit of feedback and you're practicing. Only chance you've got. So what have we learned from all of it? This is our conclusion. So from all that we've discussed so far as regards the theory, there are only really 2 key points that we want to take away. That the key to effective communication in any setting, in any business setting, is to plan to communicate, to ask in advance, what is my objective? Why am I speaking? Why am I listening? What is the key information? You got that in mind beforehand, then you will communicate effectively when you get into any business scenario. When it comes to presenting information publicly, delivering a presentation, you've got to be using an outline. You've got to be conveying ideas, not words. Get the start right, get the end right. But what goes on in the middle, it will be you and not your words that will keep the attention of an audience. Practicing out loud is how that's achieved. And so please remember that when you watch effective presentations, when you watch effective public speakers, even when you watch Obama or whoever else, the presentations that capture you, it's not because that they are the most talented people in the room. It's not because they've memorized what they're going to say. It is simply that they have practiced and prepared their presentation effectively. Now, you will be able to do that.